You can draw this in Procreate. During this easy Procreate drawing tutorial, I'm going to guide you through all the steps of creating this lighthouse. And during the process, you'll learn a variety of techniques like making use of the Symmetry Tool, Alpha Lock, layer mask, selections, and more. And you don't need any experience with Procreate or with drawing at all. I will guide you through every single step and you'll end up with your own masterpiece. Now, first of all, what you need is a canvas of 3000 by 2000 pixels. And if you want to use the exact same colors as I'm using during this tutorial, then you'll find a link in the description to the color palette. It's totally free. And then if you're ready, let's get started. So the first thing we'll do is create a gradient for our background, for our sky. And to do that, let's first drop in this color, that second color in the first row. Let's drag it onto our canvas. And now for the brush, I'd like to go to the classic library. We need to tap this little arrow downward, then go back to libraries, and then go to the classic library. And in the classic library, I'd like to go to the airbrushing brushes and use the soft brush. And then for the color, we'll pick this one, the first color in the first row. Now the opacity of the brush is at 100%, the size is at 14. And now we are going to make a horizontal stroke like this, and we'll just leave a little bit of that blue at the top. Then we'll move on to the third color in the first row and place that over here. And then as we go lower, we can use this color. That's the fifth color in the first row. Some bright orangey color. And then that fourth color in the first row. We can add a bit of that at the bottom like this. Then we'll go to the magic wand and to Gaussian Blur, and then slide to the right on your screen with your pen. Like this, and then we can go for, well, perhaps like 50% to create a nice soft gradient. And then you can tap the magic wand again to get out of there. Then we'll go to our layer menu and tap the plus to create a new layer. And then we'll go to the selection tool, that's the S-shaped ribbon over here, set it to rectangle, and we can turn on color fill. And then for the color, let's pick that second one over here. And then create a shape from here outside of the canvas, move up, and we'll go to about here. And then when you let go, it automatically fills. Then we can go to the layer menu and you can tap that layer and you can turn on Alpha Lock. Now we can use that soft brush and paint on this layer without going outside of that shape. So we can pick this purplish color, pink, purple color, third color in the first row, and we can go over this top area and create a gradient here as well. Then let's move to the fourth color for some lighter touch, and then go the top just a little bit, using very little pressure like this. Then go to the magic wand again to Gaussian Blur, slide to the right to, well, like 30%, and then tap the magic wand again. I do feel like we can make that area at the horizon a little bit lighter on our background here. What we can do is just tap the plus and we can just stick with this color and then go over this area. Make it a little bit lighter. If it's too harsh, then you can just go to the magic wand again to Gaussian Blur and slide to the right to like 25%. And I like this. Now we can just pinch these two together so we just have one layer for our sky. And we'll keep that water on a separate layer. Next, we are going to create our lighthouse. So let's make a new layer by tapping the plus. We want that layer to be underneath the water, but on top of our sky. Then we'll go to the wrench, the actions menu, then to canvas, Then we'll turn on Drawing Guide. Then we'll go to Edit Drawing Guide. And here at the bottom, we'll go to Symmetry. We have that nice vertical line, and we can tap the little check mark. And now whatever we draw on the left side will also show up on the right side. So that's super handy when you want to create a symmetrical lighthouse. Now for the brush, I'd like to go to the calligraphy brushes and use the monoline brush. And for the color, let's use this one, fourth color in the second row. Now the opacity of the brush is at 100%. The size is at 5. And then let's go here and make a slightly diagonal line upward. Something like this. Then let's go in. And let's move a little bit towards the inside. And then make a line straight up. You can tap your finger on the screen if you hold your pen in place, and then you get a perfectly vertical line. And then let's make a dome at the top. So we have a curved line at the top, a little thingy there. And here at the bottom, we can connect these lines, and then we can drag in the color. So now we have our base shape for our lighthouse. Now let's make a layer on top. Let's tap the plus, and then we need to tap that layer, and we need to turn on Drawing Assist here. If you don't do that, the Symmetry tool won't work. And then for the color, we'll pick this third color in the second row. And then let's make a little part sticking out. First, we'll make a line like this. Then we'll go to the outside a little bit, and then up, and then back to the inside. Maybe let's do that again. Now let's drag in the color, and we can tap and hold the eraser here to make it switch to the monoline brush. And then you can just tidy it up a little bit. Maybe I want it to be a little bit higher. We can get that diagonal part like this. You can make everything a little bit more crisp. Maybe a little bit lower. And we can do the same thing for this layer. I see that I have a little part sticking out here. I want that to be nice and vertical. And then for the light, we are going to make a layer on top of this. We'll tap the plus, and now we'll tap this new layer and turn on clipping mask. Now, whatever we draw here, it'll only show up on that main shape of our lighthouse. And let's also turn on Drawing Assist so we can use symmetry. And for the color, we'll use this one, sixth color in the second row. Let's rotate a bit and make a shape like this. And also a little bit lower like this. And then we need to close it. And then we can drag in the color. Then what we'll do is we'll tap this layer and add a layer mask. We can tap mask. And now we have this white layer attached to the shape. And when we draw on this with black, we can mask parts of that shape. So let's pick black and let's change our brush. I want to go to the inking brushes and use the studio pen. Opacity of the brush is at 100%. Size is at 4. And now let's first go along the edge. And then let's make a horizontal line like this, and one like this, slightly curved. And then we'll make some vertical lines. And you can hold your pen in place and tap one finger on the screen for a perfectly vertical line. And we'll have one right here in the center. Yeah, like this. Now over here in front, I want a little railing. So let's go and make a new layer. Let's tap the plus and set it to drawing assist. And for the color, I'd like to use that first color in the second row. And then let's make a line over here. Let's actually put this one on top of that shape. Let's tap and hold that layer, put it on top. And then let's go up here and make a line like this. And we can make another line right in between. And then we can make some vertical lines. Maybe a little bit more space. Something like this. Now in front of our lighthouse, we are going to create some big rocks. So let's make a new layer on top of this, and actually also on top of our water. So on top of everything else, we'll tap the plus. And for the color, let's start with this one, second color in the second row. And let's go here and create a big boulder shape, and also one over here. And here we can go down like this, maybe have some smaller ones. And then the underside, like horizontal. And of course we need a closed shape. So close it and then drag in the color. Then we can make a layer on top. We can tap the plus and pick a different color. We can go for this first one in the second row. And that's just so we can properly see these shapes. We'll make another one overlapping here. And one here. And here it's also like horizontal, mostly at the bottom. Drag in the color. And maybe there's one here. Of course, you don't have to match my shapes exactly. Then let's make another layer. Let's tap the plus and switch to that other color again, just so we can see the difference. So we can make another one over here, varying the shapes a bit. And maybe there are some smaller ones. And maybe over here. And we can also have some small ones here. Just make sure that your shape is closed when you fill it, and that the underside is mostly horizontal. Otherwise it will look weird in the water. Maybe we could have one more over here. You know what? I think we could maybe make them all a little bit bigger. Now, a way to do that is by selecting all three of them like this, by sliding to the right. Then we can go to the Move and Transform tool, have it set to uniform, and we can just use this handle. And we can move it up a little bit. Something like this, maybe even bigger. You can just play around with this until you feel happy with it. And I can just tap the arrow to get out of there. Now let's start adding some shading to the scene. And let's start with our lighthouse. Let's first of all turn off that vertical line. We can just go to the wrench, to canvas, and then turn off the drawing guide. So we don't need to see that anymore. And then we'll go to our lighthouse layer. We are going to tap it and turn off drawing assist. We don't need that symmetry anymore. Then we'll tap it again and turn on alpha lock. Now for our brush, we'll go to the other library. So we'll go back to libraries, then to the Procreate library, to the basics, and we'll use the mint brush. In my case, it still needs to load, so it looks a little bit weird. Shouldn't look like this for you, but we're using the mint brush. And for the color, we are going to use this one. That's the third color in the second row. Opacity of the brush should be at 100%, and let's set the size to 10. And let's go along the edge here. Zoom in a little bit. Go along the edge, also here at the top. And then we'll move to this color. That's the fifth color in the second row. And add a bit of that on this side. Let's make the brush even smaller, actually. Let's go for 4%. Light up the right side and also over here. And then we can go a little bit darker. We can pick this color, first color in the second row. We'll go in here and add a dark edge on the left side, a little bit here on the underside. We can actually go even smaller, 2%. A little bit of shading here and here on the left side. I hope you're having fun so far creating your own lighthouse at sea. If you want to have even more Procreate drawing and painting fun, then you should come check out my Patreon page where I have more than 250 tutorials. So it's definitely enough to keep you entertained for quite a while and also to get your Procreate drawing and painting skills to that next level. So I'll just leave a link for you down in the description in case you want to check that out. But for now, let's continue. Then let's move to this shape over here. Let's tap that layer and first of all turn off drawing assist and then tap it again to turn on alpha lock. Then we'll pick this fourth color in the second row, color the shape, and then we can start shading it. We can add a bit of that third color in the second row, add a little bit of that on the left. And we can add a bit of that pink, that fifth color in the second row. We can add that to the right. Now I want a tiny bit of detail here. And for that, I want to go to the inks. Where are they? Here, the inks. And I want to use the sheer water brush. Again, mine needs to load. For you, it'll look different. And for the color, we'll use the first color in the second row. And the opacity of the brush is at 100%, size at 5. And let's go in here and create a curved line like this. Yeah, maybe we could add a little bit more shading on this shape. We can stick to the sheer water brush. Maybe add a bit of a dark edge here. We can add darker touch to that edge and maybe a little bit on the underside here, separating these parts. Then for some windows and doors, let's make a new layer on top. Let's tap the plus. It's automatically clipped since it's in between this layer and the other clip layer. And I will go to the selection tool. We'll turn off color fill, set it to freehand, and let's just create some shapes here. We'll go up to the right, then down, close it. And let's also make some of these rectangular shapes over here, creating some very simple windows. We'll go for a pattern like this. And then for the brush, we'll go to the basics, to the mint brush. We'll stick with this color, and then we'll just color these areas in, and then turn off the selection. Then let's move on to the rocks. Let's go to this layer first, tap it, turn on alpha lock, and then for our brush, we'll go to the street art brushes and use the stack brush. And for the color, we'll stick to this dark blue. Opacity of this brush is at 100%, size is at 20. And let's go in here and let's add some texture. We can just color these things entirely and then switch to that lighter blue again, that second one, and we can get some lighter blue back. Something like this. Then we'll move on to the next layer of rocks, tap that layer, turn on alpha lock, and then here as well, add some of that lighter blue to get some rock texture, but very simple. Then on to the top one, tap that layer, turn on alpha lock. Then we'll switch back to that dark color again, first one in the second row. And let's go over the undersides. And here again, you could switch back to that lighter blue and then go over these rocks if you need to get some of that lighter blue back. Then we'll switch our brush. We'll go to the creative brushes. And then, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, Biceno brush. In any case, this one, we'll use that. And we'll switch to this lighter blue, second color in the first row. Opacity of the brush is at 100%. Size is at, 8%. And now we'll add a slightly lighter touch on these left sides. And if you hold your pen on the screen, it'll nicely mix a little bit. Do that on the other layers as well. A little bit of a light touch. And then finally on this one, and over here. Now we need some light for our lighthouse. Let's first go to this layer with that layer mask. Let's pinch that together, then tap that layer and turn off drawing assist. And then we'll go to the magic wand to bloom. Then we can slide to the right to turn on that light. I think this actually looks nice. Bloom is at 36%. Size and burn aren't changed. They're at 30 and 35. And then we can tap the magic wand again. But of course we need more light. So what we're going to do is we'll make a new layer underneath our lighthouse. So we'll go here, we'll tap the plus, then we'll go to the selection tool again. We still have it at freehand. Color fill should be turned off. And then we'll start here, then make a line like this. Then we'll go down here and then back to the lighthouse. And then we'll close our selection. Then we can go to our brushes and we'll go to the basics again. Where are they? Here. And use the mint brush. And we'll use this color again. 6th color in the second row. And let's make our brush nice and big. Maybe like 40%. And we'll go over here and create a bit of a gradient. There's more of this color at the beginning. And it fades as you move away. Then we can turn off the selection. And then let's duplicate this layer. Let's slide to the left, tap duplicate, and let's just lower the opacity of the lower one to maybe 60. And then we'll go to the Move and Transform tool. So we can make this one just a little bit bigger. So we get a little bit of an edge, as you can see. I think that gives a nice effect. Shouldn't be undoing and redoing. Let's go for something like this. And then tap the arrow again. And you can play around with the opacities a bit. If it's getting too bright. You go for something like this. The bottom one is at 49. Top one is at 83. And now we can pinch these together like this. And now we can duplicate it by sliding to the left, tapping duplicate. Then we'll go to the Move and Transform tool and use Flip Horizontal. And let's turn on magnetics here and move this one to the right like this. And then tap the arrow again. I want this one to be more faded. So let's lower the opacity by tapping the N, setting it to 70%. Then we'll tap the layer and add a layer mask. And this time we'll use our mint brush, set to the color black, to fade a part of this part of the light, just like this. So we have our bright light at the left and a faded one on the right. Next, we are going to work on the water. We need a reflection. And for that reflection, we need a duplicate of these layers. First, let's group our lighthouse layers. We can slide to the right on these layers. Now you can tap group. Let's close it. And let's also group our rocks here at the top. So select all three, tap group, then close it. And then let's duplicate it. Slide to the left, tap duplicate. Same for the lighthouse. Slide to the left, tap duplicate. And for this lighthouse group, we can tap it and use flatten. Now let's move it on top of the water. And then we have two groups. We have the rocks and we have the lighthouse. Let's select both. Then go to the Move and Transform tool and use Flip Vertical. And then we'll move it down. And you can see it doesn't align exactly. Let's zoom out a little bit. Doesn't align exactly, but we'll work on that. First, let's get out of here by tapping the arrow. And now we can open this group with our rocks and we can move them individually. We can start with this one. Go to the Move and Transform tool. Move this up a little bit. And you can see we have a little bit of an issue over here. So we can just go to the Selection tool. Let's select that part. Then go to the Move and Transform tool again. Move it up a little bit. You can also use Distort to make it align with the rock better. I'm going to tap the arrow again. Then let's move to the next one. Let's see how this one is aligning. I think that works. And then we'll go to the final one, to the Move and Transform tool. And you can see that these aren't aligning. So let's go to the Selection tool. Select this one. Go to the Move and Transform tool, move that up. Then go to the Selection tool again and move this one as well. You can see that the other one isn't aligned perfectly yet. So we can just select that one again. Go to the Move and Transform tool. You can also distort it a little bit. There. Now everything is aligned pretty much. It's good enough in any case because we are going to distort it anyway. Now let's first close this group and let's pinch these together so we have one layer with that reflection. Now let's also turn off alpha lock Tap the N and lower the opacity a bit. Let's go for like 62%. Then we'll go to the magic wand to liquify, have it set to push with distortion and momentum set to none. Let me check the size. That's way too big. We need to make our brush smaller, maybe 16. That can work. We'll just make these horizontal motions to create a ripple effect. So just horizontal. Then we'll go to the magic wand again, and then to motion blur, and then you can slide to the right on your screen and create a slight motion blur. Let's go for something like this, 15%, and then tap the magic wand again. Then we'll add a layer on top of this. We'll tap the plus, and to make sure that it stays on the water, first we'll tap this layer, set it to clipping mask, and then set this one to clipping mask as well. And now we are going to create some ripples, and we'll go to the brushes, and I'll show you an easy way to find brushes. You can just scroll down and then you'll get the search bar. So just tap that and then look for the oceans brush. It's one from the classic library. You can just tap it. And for our color, we can stick with this one, but I just want to change the layer blending mode of this layer. We can tap the N and set it to screen, which is great for adding light. Start with some ripples in a distance. First of all, opacity is at 85%. Let's set the size to maybe 9 and create some of these horizontal ripples. You need to make sure that you're going in a horizontal way. Just add a few of these ripples here. And as we move to the foreground, we can switch our color to this blue, second color in the first row, and we can also make the brush a little bit bigger, maybe 15%, as we move closer to the viewer. So just get a subtle water effect. Then as a final touch, let's add a few birds. We can just go to our sky, tap the plus for a new layer. And for the brush, I want to go back to the Procreate library and use the sheer water brush again. What you can do is just go to the top to recent brushes since we have already used it. And you can find your sheer water brush there. Now, in case you have a brush that you want to use more often, you can slide to the left on that brush and pin it. That way you can have a selection of brushes that you like, or brushes that you don't want to forget about, like this sheer water brush. And then we'll pick this first color in the second row. And we'll just go in here and we are going to create some simple birds. The size is still at 5%. And you can just make these very simple birds by just creating a little V shape and then making it a little bit thicker where the body would be. And some are smaller there in the distance. You can also make a V the other way around. Add some variety like this. And then that's it for our lighthouse artwork. I hope you have enjoyed the process and learned some new things. Let me know in the comments. And then I'll see you next time for the next tutorial.